big occasion. What a game. It finishes Chelsea 4, Manchester City 4. Taking a look at what that means in the Premier League after all the matches we saw take place. City remain top, 1 point clear of Liverpool, who won earlier in the day. We'll talk about that a little later on, but first let's welcome in Nedum Onuoha. Happy birthday, Nedum. Maybe not the 3 points that you're hoping for City.
The big 4-0.
But isn't it brilliant? After everything that's happened over the last few weeks with VAR controversies and conspiracy theories, that today was just all about the football and just thoroughly entertaining.
Oh, Dan. That's very optimistic of you to think that people aren't also still talking about VAR in general. I think depending on which way you want to perceive things, people are still thinking about it. We're not going to talk about it. We're not going to talk about it, but it was a fantastic game of football, and I wish I could have watched it as a neutral. But I'll be honest, I was rooting for City to do well, so, lots of rollercoaster emotions, all that stuff. But in the end, I think there was some real quality out there, but then there were also quite a few mistakes as well. But I think it's a great advert for the Premier League, and I think, Chelsea have been involved in 2 blockbuster games in the last 7 days. And it's good to see that, City found some fighting spirit, and Chelsea looked like a team that maybe we expected they would be at this point in the season. I think they'll be looking up the table thinking they can catch teams. I think for City, they'll take being top of the Premier League at this point in this international break, because after the last one, or just before the last one, they'd lost to Arsenal. I know more question marks about them as opposed to the feeling they have now, which is, we've got more to come.
Maybe I'm in an optimistic mood.
Yeah, I thought VAR was going to chop off there, and I talked to you about...
I thought Erling Haaland, when they were looking at the handball...
When Erling Haaland slid in...
Just don't do it.
And the ball was behind him, and it was going into the net, and I thought, this is going to take VAR to the next stupidity level.
I know.
His arm was actually going to stop the ball going in the net, but luckily they saw...
Would I be too optimistic to say that both teams wouldn't mind the draw in the end?
Well, no, but once City get that deflected goal at 4-3, OK, there's 8 minutes of injury time, but I think Guardiola has to expect this seasoned bunch of professionals to see this game out.
Right.
And they didn't, because they were ragged all game defensively. And maybe that's a little bit down to them and a lot down to Chelsea, who have set themselves a bar, I think, as their best performance of the season by a long way. I thought they were absolutely... I mean, bear in mind, they went toe-to-toe with Manchester City.
Right.
Sterling was great. Cole Palmer was excellent. Conor Gallagher was terrific in the middle of the park. Caicedo made a few bad decisions trying to nick the ball, and it's a learning process for him. But I thought Pochettino's team, bearing in mind they're playing probably still the best team in Europe, I thought Pochettino's team were terrific. Did I see them scoring 4 against City? No, I absolutely did not. But it was I just think for Pochettino, he's going to take away more from that.
Right.
Bearing in mind where they've been and where they're at, the way they played. Nobody, I think, in England has made City look as ragged for quite a while defensively.
To that point, after they beat Spurs, I think everyone agreed, look, we learned nothing really about Chelsea.
Right.
What did we learn today, Stevie, in particular?
That they've got some heart, and if they can continue to approach games the way they did from the get-go. I mean, right from the kick-off, every single time they got the ball, they went after it as a unit, as a group. And that was that. To go toe-to-toe with Manchester City, you have to be brave.
Right.
And I didn't expect Chelsea to be brave. I thought they'd try and keep it tight and not give too much away. But I'll tell you what, they did the complete opposite. Every opportunity, as I said. Now, you got to say the Man City coughed the ball up quite a lot. I guess it's a combination of them coughing it up and the pressure that Chelsea were putting on them in the middle of the park. But as I said, once they got it and got after it, I agree with Craig with Sterling and Palmer. I'm not so sure about Jackson. I think Jackson, we saw today that he's not ready.
Well, in theory, Nkunku will be back, won't he, after the international break?
If Nkunku does what he's been brought in to do, then that will make a world of difference to this side.
Raheem Sterling looked, that guy who's gone to Gareth Southgate, 2 fingers, you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, but he looked really, he looks trim and sharp, and even when he was 1-on-1 against Kyle Walker, he was prepared to take Walker on. And Cole Palmer, I mean, obviously, I've maybe a point to prove. I don't know. I think he's a really good player. He obviously wasn't seen to be good enough long-term at City, or they wouldn't have sold him, but he's a great talent. But you know what was noticeable from a Chelsea perspective? We saw under Potter and even under Tuchel, where they had some success, was the build-up play was a lot of possession, but quite slow. I think the noticeable difference we're starting to see, and certainly we saw today under Pochettino, was when they won it back, they got forward a lot quicker. Right. They were a lot pacier. Before you knew it, they were at the City back four. They were on the edge of the box. They were getting balls in the box and people forward. And it's almost like Pochettino wants to speed the game up. They did that today, and they got 4 goals for it.
And I'll tell you what, City did not look comfortable at all. No. Every single time Chelsea went after them, you felt as though they might get something.
Yeah, what was it about today, in particular, Nedum, that, to use Craig's word, that saw that City defence look so ragged?
I think it was that front foot approach from Chelsea, and I think one thing that maybe Chelsea struggle with in other sorts of games is teams they'll play against, they'll maybe take more of a backward step, so they've got more players to break down. But I think Pochettino had seen from the way City play that if you can get the ball off them, there's a chance for a quick transition. And I think with the likes of Palmer, with Sterling, with Jackson, with Gallagher up a bit higher, they can really try and push the tempo and make the other team uncomfortable. And there were lots of opportunities and times, you said, where City were ragged in terms of their defending. I think it's fair to say the same was also true for Chelsea in certain parts of the game as well. But I think this is good. And there was a stat that came up in the game, I don't know if it was on your feed over there, but City have averaged the most possession of a team this season at 62% per game. But Chelsea were in second. So all of a sudden it explains why they wanted to get on the ball, the way they wanted to approach the game. They were never going to take a step back. And I think Pochettino's given them a good game plan. I think that's 2 games in a row that he's done that. And it was exciting. Cole Palmer for a point to prove. Sterling scoring his first goal against City now. Those 2 guys were very amped. Jackson, he was keeping City honest at least. And I think it was a fantastic game because both sides really wanted to go for it and wanted to go for the win. And I think a draw is probably a fair result overall, but I think both sides will feel a bit disappointed because they had moments where they had the lead and you thought maybe something could come from this.
Talk to me about... I just want to get Cole Palmer, obviously, Nedum. You'd have seen him develop throughout City before he made that move in the summer. Just tell me a little bit about him.
I think, to be honest, I always thought he was good, but I never thought he was so good that he should play instead of anyone that's been in City's front line or in midfield for the last few years. But again, this just goes to show sometimes if you find yourself in the right place and you get given confidence, then you can really show your ability. Because one of his coaches, Jordan Lescott, for the under-21s last year, he always used to say how Cole Palmer is an exceptional talent. And when the money came in from Chelsea, I think the £42.5 million, there were lots of people that raised eyebrows thinking, well, of course you've got to send him down there because that's so much money for someone that's not proven. But for him, he said that's going to be a good deal for them. And you can see in the way that he plays, the way that he carries himself now at Chelsea, he's confident, he feels like he's the guy, he's the man who's playing week in, week out. He's played more minutes for Chelsea this season in the league than he played for City all of last season in the league. So you can see he's comfortable and he's getting a chance to show his potential in a style and a side that suits his ability. So fair play to him, he steps out there and he's the main man. Like, Cole Palmer's taken a penalty in the 92nd minute or whatever of a game against his former side as a 20-year-old, having Raheem Sterling playing there, who he's played with for the last 5-6 years, who would never have let him take a penalty before. I think it's clear to say that, or clear to see that upon leaving City, it's not about him being an academy graduate anymore. He's the new signing for Chelsea that's there to help them achieve their goals this season, and he's playing in that manner, and it's a great thing to see.
It's the way that he takes the ball for a run. He sort of glides across the surface. He's a very talented young guy. And he went, just before, it was late in the second half, he went in a great run, didn't he? Right through the middle of the Chelsea defence.
Should have scored, though.
Yeah, he probably should have scored. He got a little knock all day, hypercritical here. Shouting at the TV again. But he did get a couple of nudges that just sort of put him off a little bit. But I think I heard John Champion in the commentary say Chelsea hadn't scored against Man City since the Champions League final.
I said that on yesterday's show, actually.
Did you?
Oh, yes. John Champion.
I must not have been listening.
Yeah, you were too busy saying, because I said it was going to be a draw and you shouted at me for that.
Well, you got lucky. Let's be honest. It took a late one, a late equaliser. I'm with Stevie, and I've said before in the programme that, to me, City have a lot more problems down the left-hand side than they do on the other side.
Right.
Guardiola's a good player, but he's not a fullback, and the way he got his body shape there was just all wrong. It was just all wrong. And he's not the only one. Aki's been put out there. Kanji's been out there. It's I wouldn't say it's a problem area for him, but it's certainly maybe a little bit of a weak point in this City team, that left-hand side, because we know on the right side generally, for general rule of thumb, Kyle Walker is just... he's almost unbeatable as a defender.
And they're all centre-backs that he's trying at full-back. Centre-backs hate playing full-back.
Right.
The comfort they have in the middle of the park and having players around them is part of why they love playing where they do. So when you stick a centre-back wide, all of a sudden he feels exposed and they hate it. And he's finding that out because every single one he's tried, they've all struggled a bit.
Do you remember the game at Old Trafford, which they won easy in the end? It was in the first half, United's chances all came from pretty much Guardiola been sloppy on the ball. I mean, we're not quite at the stage of putting Bernardo Silva back there, like he did last year. But it is maybe some food for thought, that position.
Nedum?
No, I think that is fair. It's not obviously not as strong as that right side, and I think at times, when I see Vardy, I think, oh, this is a really good player and his ceiling's very, very high. But then there are other moments, as was the case in the derby for that first period, where you remember, this is a 21-year-old in a new league for the first time. And I think some of those little mistakes and little bits of naivety, I think he will get better with that. I think he's capable of playing the left side of a three if it's going to be in terms of an attack. But at the end of the day, I think as long as you're making a lot of mistakes when you're younger, you'll be able to grow out some of those going forward. Because for City, in terms of what they want to try and achieve come the end of the season, they can't have slip-ups like they were making today.
Now, Chelsea obviously have given other sides around them a big head start, considering the way they started the season.
Don't ask. No.
Let's just take a look. Shut up. Let's just take a look at the odds regarding a top 4
Oh, God, here we go.
It's happening. Here it comes.
One result.
Well, they beat Spurs 4-1.
They're 9 men.
Lost 4 goals at
Do you
home.
remember when we had that graphic up in this horrible run and we were like, they're going to get 4 points from the next 8 games?
Well, how many? I didn't say 4.
So they currently sit on 16 points. That's 10 adrift of Spurs. They are 5-1, which is quite short, considering United are 9-2. Given the groans and the moans, you're not on board this whatsoever.
Well, listen, from what they were producing to what we saw today, then, OK, if you want to spend the day giving them praise, let's do that.
Yeah.
But if you want to look at the big picture,
Yeah.
they lost 4 goals at home.
Right. Against a treble-winning side.
But they lost 4 goals at home.
Right.
I don't care who they're playing
But they did score 4. They did score 4 goals.
But that's
without
the positive.
Nkunku as
But
well.
that's the positive.
Right.
They scored 4 goals.
Right.
But hold on a second. When you lose 4 goals at home,
Yeah.
I'm going to put it a different way. You scored 4 goals at home,
Yes.
and you still don't win the game.
Yeah.
That's not good.
No.
Oh, what do you mean it's not good?
Well, you scored 4 goals
but
at home, but you don't win the game.
No, but
What part of that is
you
great?
just said Chelsea were good today.
If you want to go that route and praise them, yeah, but you've got to look at the big picture, and they lost 4 goals at home.
Right.
Yeah, that's where they are.
Teams that want to be in the top 4 can't afford to lose 4 at home. I don't care who you're playing.
25.
Did they lose 4 at home?
Yeah, I think so.
He's 39, Thiago Silva.
Yeah, I mentioned that as well.
Oh, there you go.
At the end of the day-
That's not a positive either, is it?
Wow.
He's doing all right.
Oh, it's doing great.
It's all right. 25 matches to go, Nedum. What do you
He's got
reckon?
2 goals a day.
So I think they'll be in the Champions League next season, but I think it'll be because you'll potentially be able to finish 5th this year. And I think if you look at it from that context at the moment, is Villa that are in 5th. Villa are doing very, very well. They've won 13 home games in a row. Is this what we think they're going to be doing for the rest of the season? I'm not 100% sure. So I think Chelsea will be in the mix around that 4th and 5th position, but likely finish 5th. And I'll be honest, I'm a Chelsea truther. I think they're good. It's agonising. I think the biggest problem has been not scoring goals, because defensively overall they've been fine. But I think they're going to do it, and I think they'll be 5th and be in the Champions League next year.
But they have to keep that going, don't they? I mean, it's all very well beating a 9-man Spurs and putting this kind of performance up, but the international breaks come at a bad time for them. Right. One good performance against 9 men, and one really good performance against the best team in England, the best team in Europe, right? They'd want to play again 3-4 days later and keep this going.
Right.
But that's the big question. Can they keep it going, or are they going to revert back to the team that plays okay and just misses a bundle of chances? Yeah, and Nkunku's coming back. But Newcastle will get stronger. Villa are still strong. Who the hell knows what's going to happen with Man United? So it's not going to be that easy. I don't think they're going to make it.
City still going to win the league? No massive red flags today going forward?
No, I think you have to question when you lose 4 goals away from home. I think you do. I think the biggest question, if I'm is Pep, is the amount of times they gave the ball away is not like them. And this is not the first game this season that's happened. That would be a little bit of a worry.